Hello, my name is Sterling, and you are learning American English with me. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a point that sounds really confusing when you see it the first time, and that's when you hear combinations of the verb to have used together with another form of the verb to have. It might make no sense at all when you hear it for the first time. Have had, has had. For example, I had a good time, or I had had a car before, or we have been having fun, or he has had the test. If any of that confused you in this video, I want to unconfuse you so you understand how these things work. The answer is really simple. There's not one verb to have that's being used as both the auxiliary verb and the main verb. What's really happening is that there are really two verbs. The first verb is to have, the auxiliary verb, and the second verb is the main verb. It's also called to have, but it's not the same verb. That's the confusion. In English, it has the same name. So once you understand that's what's going on, you'll see when you look at, for example, the present perfect tense and the past perfect tense forms, which, by the way, are the same in Spanish in word order. You'll see that in a minute. Your confusion will fade away to nothing. So in order to illustrate what's happening in English, I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation, an unreal situation, an imaginary situation that does not exist and never will exist. But to illustrate a point, let's imagine this. This is easy to imagine for me because I tend to think that there are some mysterious things going on in the world today. But let's just imagine that you are a native Spanish speaker. Of course, you probably are. And one day your government announces that the word tener is to be replaced by the verb haber. Would this even make sense? No, but your government is ordering this. So, it doesn't have to make sense. The new law is you must speak this way. And in this imaginary world, you may not say tener or any of its forms anywhere. You could be arrested. You could be imprisoned for saying tengo, tenga, tenemos, teníamos, any of that. Saying these words are forbidden. They're not permitted. Instead, you would have to use the word haber and all of its forms from now on to replace the word tener and its forms. What would your sentences sound like in Spanish? They would sound like English, of course, because this is exactly what English does. In this imaginary world, you would have to remember that there would be haber one and haber two. Haber two does not mean haber one. Rather, it means tener. So let me switch to Spanish so you can see the same perspective. En este punto déjame explicar en español para que puedas entender desde el punto de vista de un hispanohablante. O sea, en lugar de decir he tenido, en este mundo imaginario, tengas que decir, en lugar de he tenido, tengas que decir he habido. ¿Tiene sentido? Por supuesto no. Pero la palabra tener y todas sus formas, no puedes decir más. La palabra tener haya sido reemplazado y no se permite decirla. Hay una pena de muerte por decir eso. Entonces, en lugar de decir has tenido, tengas que decir has habido. Y en lugar de decir hemos tenido, tengas que decir hemos habido. O sea, en este mundo imaginario, para expresar el pasado, la palabra habido reemplace la palabra tenido. Eso sería el único cambio, pero recuerda, tenido no existe, sino digas habido en su lugar. Y así es, en verdad, en inglés. Así se expresa la idea han tenido en inglés, they have had. Es como decir han habido cuando quieres decir han tenido. Y así se expresa la idea habíamos tenido en inglés, we had had. Es como decir habíamos habido, que no tiene sentido, pero quieres decir habíamos tenido, we had had. Back to English now. Even if that confused you, and I hope not, it did keep your attention. And if it did confuse you, then good. Go back, review it, look at it again. After you think about it, it will make sense. It's going to make perfect sense. We need to realize that in English there are two verbs, to have one and to have two. To have one is like haber in Spanish, while to have two is like tener in Spanish. Both verbs in English, to have, are spelled and conjugated and have the same verb endings. That's the confusing part. Let's look at how you would use to have as an auxiliary verb or as a possession verb. Either way, as the main verb, it's going to be conjugated the same. In the present tense, I have, you have, we have, they have, he has, she has, it has. Notice, the third person present tense in English is always conjugated, or it always has an ending of S for the forms he, she, and it. The rest of the verbs are the base form. That's true for all verbs in English. Notice in the past tense, I had, you had, we had, they had, he had, she had, it had. The form of the word never changes. That's also true in every verb in the English language. The past tense form does not change depending on the pronoun. I could say more about that, but that's off topic. Now you could use to have as a verb to indicate possession directly, like I have a ball in the present tense. I had a good time in the past tense. Or you can use it as an auxiliary verb with the past participle of any verb. And I'll give you examples in the present and the past perfect tenses like this. In the present tense, I have gone to school. Look at the order of words. Pronoun I, auxiliary verb, have, past participle, gone to school, object phrase. This is exactly what you do in Spanish. Yo he ido a la escuela. Pronoun yo, auxiliary verb he, past participle ido. A la escuela, object phrase. And you do exactly the same thing in past perfect. I had gone to school before the accident happened. Pronoun I, auxiliary verb had, past participle gone. To school before the accident happened. Object phrase. You do this in Spanish. Yo había ido a la escuela antes de que ocurrió el accidente. Yo, pronoun. Había, auxiliary verb. Ido, past participle. A la escuela antes de que ocurrió el accidente. Object phrase. You do exactly the same thing in Spanish already. This really makes seeing the difference clear. Let's summarize here the present perfect and the past perfect. I have had, he tenido. You have had, has tenido. They have had, han tenido. We have had, hemos tenido. She has had, or he has had, él ha tenido. She has had, ella ha tenido. The past perfect, the auxiliary verb changes to habia, or had. I had, había tenido. You had, habías tenido. They had, habían tenido. We had, habías tenido. He had, él había tenido. She had, ella había tenido. So, a summary is, in the present tense, the auxiliary verb haber is he, ha, has, han, hemos. In English, it's have or has. In the past tense, in Spanish, we have habia and all its forms, habias, habian, habiamos. In English, we have had. That's the entire explanation. And the confusion about two verbs that appear to be alike disappears when you realize that these are actually two different verbs. The auxiliary verb and the main verb, they just share the same name in English, to have. Have I beaten that dead horse enough? That's a good colloquialism for you to look up till the next time. Hope you learned something from this video, and I hope you subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscribe button now, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So let's talk about the verb to have too. That's the one that means tener. How to use it as a main verb. We could use to have as a verb to indicate possession in a direct way. In the present tense, I have a ball. In the past tense, I had a good time. I had a good time. Or you can use it as an auxiliary verb with the past participle of any verb in the present and past perfect tenses, like this. Now, don't let this grammar terminology confuse you, because you already speak this way in Spanish. Pronoun plus auxiliary verb plus past participle plus object phrase. I have gone to school. I, pronoun, have, auxiliary verb, gone, past participle, to school, object phrase. And you do it in the exact same order in Spanish. Yo he ido a la escuela. Yo, pronoun, he, auxiliary verb, ido, past participle, a la escuela, object phrase. It's the same. And if we go to the past perfect, if we go to the past perfect form, I had gone to school before the accident happened. It's the same thing. Pronoun, auxiliary verb, past participle, and the phrase that describes the rest of it. I, pronoun, had, auxiliary verb, gone, past participle, to school before the accident happened, object phrase. You do the same thing in Spanish. Había ido a la escuela antes de que ocurrió el accidente. Yo, pronoun, había, had, ido, auxiliary, past participle. Antes de que ocurrió el accidente, object phrase. So I hope you can see the similarities here. And I put them in table form here for present perfect. I have had, he tenido. I had, yo había tenido. You have had, has tenido. They have had, han tenido. We have had, hemos tenido. He has had, él había tenido. She has had, ella ha tenido. I'm sorry. That should be a. You see that? She has had. He ha had. Él ha tenido. Ella ha tenido. It has. Maybe I should record one more time. I don't know if I will. Let's see how long